All right, so Nick, you're going in kind of blind to this video. Now you've read some of the stuff. You've read the print.
I just checked again. This is from the same interview, so we on the same page here. So I'm sure you're gonna say some of this stuff. I might go over this article anyway because it's horrible. But
absolutely,
I remember
absolutely.
in my last thing I'm gonna say I want the video to play because once again I haven't seen the actual interview. I told you guys I read my news most of the time. Only except when I'm trying to get up on these motherfuckers. But remember during my interview when I accurately told Marianne Williamson that Bernie Sanders' role is to do PR for Joe Biden? And then she said, I don't see Bernie this way because I do nothing but watch secular talk. When you see their videos, you see why now. Like they never show what they do as PR agents of the Democratic Party. Why we do? We show you videos of AOC clapping with Chuck Schumer as they booed an anti-war rally protester out. David Doe and Kyle Kalinske not going to show you that. Anyway, let's go into the video because I got a lot of critiques to this interview. Just based on some of the quotes I read. This, as you said to me earlier behind the scenes, it's going to be way worse when I actually hear this guy say it.
Let me know when you hear the quotes that you've already read.
I'm gonna be watching, so
I'm curious to know which ones they are. All right, everybody. Here's Face the Nation, Bernie Sanders.
We're now joined by Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders, who is out with a new book. It's okay to be angry about capitalism. Good morning, Senator. Good to have you here in person.
Thank you. It's okay to be angry about capitalism, but we're going to prop it up. We're going to prop it up in this military-industrial complex. That's what we're going to prop up the surveillance state. But it's okay to be angry at it, though, as long as you prop it up. Okay, is that right, Bernie?
I think the better name should be "It's okay if you want to destroy capitalism." I think that's a better name. Bernie could have went down, but
I want to talk about one of the things you flesh out in the book. You talk about the alliance you formed with Joe Biden during the campaign to really shape the Democratic platform and incorporate many of your.
That is such not an accurate description of what happened.
And I'm going to debunk that.
You said he wasn't.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Bernie is 100% okay with this lie. They're going to continue to propagate. I don't know how this interview go. I just read a few of these stories. They presented this thing where Bernie met up with Joe Biden, and then they got this progressive agenda, and Biden delivered. Bernie is selling fiction to people. Let the interview continue. I want to see how it goes because I had the format slightly different, but I want to see how the interview goes because he's selling you this bullshit, and I literally got receipts. I'm gonna show you how Biden lied on even the basic promises of the progressive task force, and they in the task force, Bernie and AOC, and pretending the exact opposite is true. It's unbelievable. Let's continue.
Well, this is what we could do because I like when we pause the video, bring up a receipt, and then come back to video. So if you have a receipt, just let me know. We can pause the video, bring that receipt up, and come up and come back because it's a good way of debunking point by point as we're watching it. You know what I'm saying? Instead of trying to watch all of it and then debunk them all at the end. I do like him to debunk them as he's bringing them up. So let me know. Here we go.
As bold as you would have hoped, but he would have been.
Let me rewind a second so we can get the context of that "but" part there.
He would have been the most progressive president since FDR if he had acted.
Okay, I gotta rewind it because, of course, I gotta hear that garbage. Let me rewind it some more. Here we go.
During the campaign to really shape the Democratic platform and incorporate many of your ideas. You said he wasn't as bold as you would have hoped, but he would have been the most progressive president since FDR if he had acted on that agenda. How do you categorize Joe Biden on that progressive scale now?
Well, I think the American Rescue Plan that we passed early in his agenda in the midst of the terrible pandemic, the economic collapse, was in fact one of the most significant pieces of legislation for the working class of this country in the modern history of America.
Understand, this is such a this is one of the most used propaganda tools in history. What does that mean, Bernie, tangibly, if you've never invested in the working class? You get what I'm saying? If you invest a penny, then you can go, I've invested the most I've ever done in history. You get what I'm saying? So it's always a starting point you have to examine when they use that propaganda tactic.
And Bernie knows he's misleading people when he say that. Being the most progressive president among Bill Clinton, Barack Obama, who tamed black wealth, George W. But this is not an accomplishment. And we broke down many times how Build Back Better, these progressive policies that Biden implemented, was half measures that did nothing for the working class. Right. Biden did nothing to keep the child tax credit that they lied about. But there's no criticism of that, Bernie. It's instead playing a big what if. What if we got this passed? You know we wouldn't have got passed. That's the point. That's the point of the failure of organizing the Democratic Party. But let's continue the video. I'm sure it get worse. I'm sure it gets.
Back better would have been transformational.
No, it, not,
it
no,
would
it
have
wasn't.
finally addressed the.
Yeah, just lying.
Just lying.
Like this to me, like the description of it is gone beyond exaggeration to a lie.
Yeah,
it's beyond exaggeration. Go ahead. Okay, let's go.
Crises that the working class of this country has faced for decades, revolutionized childcare, revolutionized healthcare, dealt boldly with climate change, raised wages. I mean, it would have done a whole lot.
But the votes weren't there.
We got 0 Republican support and 2 Democrats decided.
That's legislative branch, Bernie. Like, this is why you bring up legislative branch shit when we talk about Biden. Talk about what he did with the executive branch, DHS, the military, taking COVID relief money. You guys see how the boutique left, the progressive left have no. Well, I know Bernie does know how to work. His job is to dumb the left down and get people who have no idea what the hell is going on. You're talking about the failure of Congress. This had nothing to do with Biden. You can say Biden can whip the votes, but his job as commander in chief. Let's see what he did with DHS funding. Look at executive orders. Look at what he's doing in the military. That's his job. You're deflecting the fact that he is the same as Donald Trump when it comes to commander-in-chief shit. You understand? But this is the deeply unserious rhetoric that goes on in corporate media and among the boutique left, where they talk about Biden. Oh my God, look how this is a progressive thing the legislative branch didn't accomplish. Left credit Biden for that for some reason. The fuck? Let's continue.
In terms of how you view the president, do you think he is progressive?
I think he.
Now, a person who's on the left would have said, well, it clearly, based on his history, hell the fuck no, he's not progressive. He is center right. That is the answer that should have came out of Bernie Sanders' mouth. And I think this is one of the things that have tipped. This quote that comes up next is one of the things that is getting people most upset of some of his quotes that they talk about in his articles. So let's listen. I'll rewind it just about 5 seconds so we can get the full question again and then get his answer.
Decided not to support it.
So in terms of how you view the president, do you think he is progressive?
I think he is a much more progressive president than he was a United States senator. And I think as a result of the campaign and the task force.
Oh, he's more progressive than Crime Bill Joe. How? For one, he took COVID relief money and gave it to the police. Democrat mayors are funding the police more on record levels. DHS and ICE, remember the thing that AOC said she cared about? Biden is funding ICE to historic levels. So when you say you're more progressive than him as a senator, what's that? For one, what does that even mean, considering they got different roles? When Joe Biden was a senator, he voted for war. When Joe Biden's the president, he voted for war. So what do you even mean by when you say this? When Joe Biden was a senator, he spanned the police. When Joe Biden was the president, he spanned the police. Like, it is lies. Let's continue.
Forces we did together. You recall we had task forces during his campaign and my campaign. I think we came up with an agenda that was progressive. Obviously, we were not able to get everything we wanted to get done.
In some of the things you were able to get done and signed into law, President Biden points to them as achievements, but you diminish them a little bit in this book. You point out Medicare won't be permitted to negotiate lower drug prices until 2026. Right. The cap on out-of-pocket prescription drug costs for seniors doesn't kick in until 2025. 35 $35 cap on insulin prices doesn't help those who aren't on Medicare. Are you saying?
You see how him just literally stating a fact is a criticism. There was no criticism there. He's literally just saying when it kicks in and when this happens, but bringing it up, I guess, is the critique in the book, or either that she's using it to set up this nonsensical question that's coming up next.
Cap on out-of-pocket prescription drug costs for seniors doesn't kick in until 2025. $35 cap on insulin prices doesn't help those who aren't on Medicare. Are you saying he hasn't delivered?
No. I mean, look, this is the real world that we live in, is that you need 60 votes often in the Senate, and Democrats had a slim majority.
How is that?
Delivered? He hasn't delivered. Go ahead if you want to chime in. I can't see you. Go ahead.
How is that an excuse of what he could get accomplished, of the lies that he did? Expand Social Security benefits, didn't get accomplished. Eliminate cash bail, nothing done. No attempt to increase the federal minimum wage. No attempt at doing any of this stuff. It's unbelievable. Let's continue.
$35 cap on insulin prices doesn't help those who aren't on Medicare. Are you saying he hasn't delivered?
No. I mean, look, this is the real world that we live in, is that you need 60 votes often in the Senate, and Democrats had a slim majority in the House. But what I am talking about, Mark, and what the book is about, is taking a hard look at the reality facing working families in this country. And the truth is that today, over 60% of our people are living paycheck to paycheck. So the question that I am asking is, why in the richest country in the history of the world, why don't we have a healthcare system that works for all, where people can walk into the doctor's office as they do in Canada without having to take out their wallet?
And that's a great point, because the person and the team you're on will veto it. Your friend Biden.
You guys see the ridiculousness of this? They said, do you think Biden had delivered? He said, oh, I wouldn't say that. Then he go list how the working class is struggling. He said, oh my God, Americans living paycheck to paycheck. Yeah, 4 out of 10 Americans can't afford healthcare. But I wouldn't say Biden didn't deliver. Who's been in charge for the last 40 years, Bernie? He's president right now, and he's more focused on taking COVID relief funds to the police than he is providing healthcare to people. The state of the working class right now is worse than it was 2-3 years ago, and that's a fact. And they always repeat this word salad nonsense to do defense for Joe Biden. Let's continue, CJ.
Why do we spend twice as much per capita on healthcare? Why do we pay the highest prices in the world for prescription drugs? So we have seen some achievements, but given the scope of the problems and where we should be going, nowhere near enough.
We also have one of the most innovative healthcare systems when it comes to creation of pharmaceutical drugs. You are doing this.
No.
So when someone hears you lay out the problems with our pharmaceutical industry, as you do in this book, it's say, but the life-saving vaccines, for example, for COVID, they were created by the United States of America. They were created by the pharmaceutical system with taxpayer help.
Sure. Of course the drug companies produce great drugs, but 1 out of 4 people in America cannot afford the drugs that their doctors prescribe. You tell me why we pay 10 times more for some drugs that are sold in the United States compared, say, to Canada or to other countries, while year after year, the pharmaceutical industry makes tens of billions of dollars in profits, pays their CEOs exorbitant salaries. So of course,
I'm almost at the point, Nick, because I've heard this spiel, inequality. I'm at the point. It's like, Bernie, we've heard this.
It's disgusting when you know he don't fight against anything.
That's the point. That's where I'm getting to. It's like you keep talking. What is the thing to do it? Let's do the thing to do it now.
So Joe Biden
just talking.
Joe Biden and his policies are directly responsible for Big Pharma making record profits. Big Oil is making record profits. So you criticize capitalist greed, but you apologize for the man on top? Say he's doing better than expected? Saying the most progressive of all time as Big Oil and these CEOs are making record profits. Let's continue.
We want the drug companies to do the research and development. Mm-hmm. And by the way, taxpayers in this country spend $45 billion a year through the NIH to help with that research and development, including Moderna and the vaccine.
You're talking about Moderna. Pfizer didn't take that money, but Moderna, you're sharply critical. In fact, you're chair of the Senate's Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions Committee. And next month, you're calling in Moderna's CEO to testify. You're critical of his plan to quadruple the cost of the COVID vaccine. Well, can you stop him from doing that?
Well, here.
I must pick up on what she just did. The framing. Understand who she's bought by. Why is she saying you're critical of the doubling? Why is it framed that way? Are you not critical? of the doubling of medication? As a journalist, you're not critical of that? To me, the framing is telling, and then a lot of the questioning she's doing, it's clear she's representing corporate America in the framing of some of her questions, and this is one of them.
Here's the story. Taxpayers, the NIH co-authored, worked together to create the vaccine.
Right.
Taxpayers put billions of dollars into the development of the vaccine, guaranteed sales for the vaccine.
As they did with many other companies.
Yep.
Too.
All right. And then
You see what I mean? Why is a journalist chiming in to say, give this other company a credit? Like, she is literally a representative, the corporate representative who's interviewing this loose cannon. We don't know what he could possibly say. It's ridiculous.
what happens after the government stockpile of the vaccine expires? These guys say, well, we're going to quadruple the price of the vaccine. And by the way, in the last 2 years, the CEO made $5 billion and his other guys made billions of dollars. Is that really what should be happening? Truth is, pharmaceutical industry is enormously greedy.
Never brings it up.
Never brings it up. Not important, apparently.
Charging us outrageously, uncontrollably high prices. We have got to deal with that. As chairman of the relevant committee, I intend to do what I can.
Moderna says it's instituting a patient assistance plan to give the COVID shot to the uninsured and underinsured Americans free of cost. Is that sufficient?
And you know,
why is she bringing that up? You see what I'm saying? Like, she's interjecting. All of her interjections are about helping the corporate representation.
Yeah,
that's what all her interjections go towards.
Yeah, you think she coming up with that on her own, on the fly, or is she getting fed those talking points? They get paid. Big Pharma is one of their biggest advertisers.
Exactly.
Weapon industry, the biggest advertisers. People think they get the news from these people. These people literally are salespeople of their biggest advertisers, like Big Pharma and Big Oil, the military industrial complex. And you see here, that's why you see these segments where they actually go to Biden's right on Ukraine war funding. And it's funny when you look at Jake Sullivan and Anthony Blinken, the media like, why are you not sending more weapons to Ukraine? They're like, the fuck? You know how much we sent? If they do that because their job is to advocate for the weapon manufacturers. But let's continue the video here.
Margaret, amazing coincidence. That happened the same exact day as we announced that we were inviting them to testify.
You think your political heat made that difference?
Well, maybe it was just a wild and crazy coincidence. I don't know. But we also want to take a look at what that patient program is about. We're talking to them about that. But obviously, it's a step.
Man, they are so comfortable with Bernie on that on corporate TV now. They know he's not going to say anything too dangerous. She's just so chummy and relaxed with him now. This is how you know. They know Bernie's going to come on here to defend Biden. They're going to have this little play scrimmage, right? But they know they here to do one role only. Push the corporate agenda. Bernie's going to do this dance where he defend Biden. And it's deeply impressive. And this is the person that people want to run in 2024. A guy who this week on the criticism of Joe Biden. But let's continue.
When we recently saw AOC do the same thing.
Yep.
So both AOC and Bernie are comfortable now in corporate media. When's the last time you seen Bernie Sanders do a 30-minute interview on a corporate media? Like, when's the last time that happened?
Why don't they have Chris Hedges on? I want you guys to ask these questions. Norman Finkelstein, Gerald Horn, Murray Kimberly, all these intellectuals. I'm not even telling them to talk to my hood ass, my ignorant ass. Talk to one of these intelligent people that say what I say. They don't even do it. They won't talk to Glenn Greenwald. He was part of the corporate media circle at one point. Don't talk to him anymore. But they're safe with Bernie Sanders, though. That alone should say a lot. The fact that Sam Cedar get an invite on MSNBC to say a lot. They feel safe with you on camera for an hour. Wow. Let's continue.
Step in the right direction.
Step in the right direction. How do you lower the cost of prescription drugs in a way that doesn't hurt American innovation? And
oh, Jesus fucking Christ.
Did you just hear the defense of capitalism question she just did?
The reason why prescription drugs... No, take the inverse of what she said. The inverse of what she said is the reason why prescription drugs are so high is because they've been innovating. That is absurd. There's been evidence showing that big pharma it'll cost them $30 to make a drug, and then they will charge you $900 for it. How is that innovation? How will that block innovation, stopping that from happening? It's wild. But we can
we can continue. Yeah, we can continue.
And how do you do it politically when Republicans control the House?
You know, I saw a poll that was done just for Republicans. And you know what Republicans regarded as the major priority they were concerned of? High cost of prescription drugs.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I think we have the basis for bipartisan work to tell the pharmaceutical industry that they really have got to stop ripping off the American people. A number of ways you could do it. The Inflation Reduction Act started by having Medicare negotiate prices with the pharmaceutical industry. Doesn't kick in for a few years.
Yep.
I think we should expedite that. Number two, of all people, my good friend Donald Trump, all right, who I disagree with on everything, had the idea that maybe Medicare should not pay prices higher than the average of what countries around the rest of the world are paying. That's a good idea, and we want to pursue that as well. And there's the concept of reimportation, that if Americans can buy drugs in Canada or in Europe at a fraction of the price, let's have pharmacists and distributors be able to purchase those drugs and sell them at much lower cost in the United States.
This involves state subsidies of some form, government subsidies.
CJ, check
She has no problem with government subsidies going to all of these corporations, but you see how she's trying to say, wait, you're trying to get a government subsidy to these people? That's what she's trying to do in representing the corporate America that she's doing on this network.
If I was in your position, I'll play dumb, and I don't use their language, like like sanctions, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what the fuck you mean? When you talk about Americans, when you talk about subsidy, I'll look at you right in your face. What do you mean? What do you mean subsidy? I literally don't know what you mean. Make them explain what the fuck that is. When they come to us, they say, "Oh my God, government handouts, entitlements." But when it's them, it's a subsidy. You see how they come up with these tricky capitalist
special words?
It's a subsidy for them. It's a handout for us. No, you tell me what the fuck a subsidy is. The same way you tell me what a sanction is. You're not gonna use these fucking silver tongue words with me and trick me. We're gonna have a real conversation. When you say subsidy, you mean get a handout, government taxpayer handout to a business because we have a certain central planning model. So they say we get subsidies to farmers and big oil because of X reason, because of this reason. So you're picking the winners and losers. You guys see how this whole free market thing never existed? It doesn't exist. You have a central planning model. It is based on who have the power. And capitalists, they get subsidies to other capitalists. What we want to own the means of production that will actually be way more efficient, and we don't have to worry about begging these people for shit. Anyway, let's continue the video because I probably
that
go
does
like
not involve subsidies. That simply says if you can buy a drug in Canada, same drug for 1/10 of the price, passes FDA specifications, it should be sold in this country at a lower price.
And you think you can do this with Republicans in control of the House? Do you think the votes are there?
I think there's a lot of support for dealing with the high cost of prescription drugs. Yes, I do.
I want to ask you about what's politically possible in that makeup.
So this is a good question to end the segment on. This question here: what's politically possible?
Congress right now. Democrats have this narrow 51-seat majority in the Senate. You're an independent, but you caucus with the Democrats. Both of Pennsylvania's senators are out of office right now dealing with serious health issues.
This is something I did not know. Like, I heard that Fetterman was hospitalized for something, but I just assumed it would be something quick and he was already out. I did not know this part, that both of them were still hospitalized.
And so their absence complicates any votes. Do you have any idea when, for example, Senator Fetterman will be out of the hospital and well enough to return?
We wish Senator Fetterman has gone through a hell of a year. I mean, with his stroke in the middle of a campaign and dealing with other issues. So I can't answer that. I think Bob
Imagine
Casey
what the workers been through.
was dealing with.
Supposed to feel bad for this fuck. 4 out of 10 Americans can't get health care because they can't afford it.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to feel bad for this fuck who can get medical care. Call me an asshole if you want, but I don't feel it. I don't feel it. I feel more upset about the Americans who can't afford health care. That's just me. But go ahead, Bernie.
No, I agree completely.
Cancer will be back, as I understand it, in early March.
This is a big what if. I mean, this is a very key state, Pennsylvania,
Sure.
for Democrats. I mean,
Right.
are you concerned?
Well,
For the
obviously,
party.
we're concerned, about the health of all of
Are
our
you
members.
concerned
and
for
we
the
hope-
party? I'm
I
saying,
was
I'm
wondering-
laughing because they know the questions to ask Bernie. He's so safe. Are you concerned about the party?
Right.
That's so absurd, man. Let's continue.
They are all back. Bob, I think, will be back. We know that. John, I just don't have that information.
Mhm. Because Pennsylvania, in so many ways, also is an example of a lot of what you talk about in terms of the working class,
Yeah.
mixing with the concerns you have there. Are you concerned that that state is, if there has to be a special election, for example, or if Casey doesn't
let's
run,
not-
that it goes to the
No,
Republicans?
Bob will be back in a few weeks.
Okay.
But so let's not speculate on it. But like Pennsylvania, like Vermont, like other countries, like other states in our country, the people in those states are hurting. And the question of the book again is that how come we have so many people who are struggling? We have a dysfunctional healthcare system. Our childcare system is in disarray. We got millions of elderly people who have nothing in the bank
Mhm,
as they face retirement, and yet the people on top are doing phenomenally well.
mhm.
And Margaret, what the book is about is saying that we have more income and wealth inequality today than we've ever had. We have more concentration of ownership in sector after sector than we have ever
Mhm.
had. We have a political system which is increasingly corrupt because as a result of Citizens United, billionaires can put enormous amounts of money into it
Yeah.
to elect their candidates. And we have, 8 major media conglomerates, corporate media conglomerates that control about what 90% of the American people see, hear, and read. Those are really issues that we need to
Listen
discuss.
to this
That's what the
question
book
she has
does.
right here.
Do you worry when you talk about the corporate media that you are targeting journalists when
No.
you say that?
That's
Uh,
one, corporate media, there's no journalists. And the fact that she said that was disturbing. Now, I want to
Yeah.
fast forward to this last part because I want you to hear how they try to call out Bernie about the book title, but then point out how he's selling something at a high cost. So let's listen. It's at the very end. They threw it in at the very end.
On why we have a dysfunctional healthcare system. Does that have anything to do with who owns the major networks? Bernie, what are you going to do about income and wealth inequality? Do you demand, why are billionaires paying an effective tax rate lower than working class people? No one asked me those questions. Okay.
No one tells us the questions to ask.
I understand that, but there's a culture.
So let me just tell you, if you go and watch those videos by some of the boutique left, this is the section that they're talking about. Because
You want to know what section they ignored?
The beginning, they skip all of that first part. The first 15 minutes, they skip.
Yeah, and in the last part I'm gonna add, and I'm sorry I gotta leave out early, but my brothers are here. I'll set 2 hours. I don't want.
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
While my brothers are here, so I want to share this part because the rest of it is not too important. But this is, damn, they really did change it. So I'm struggling. I don't know if you noticed as well. They changed the format
On Twitter.
Oh no, on StreamYard. I don't know what the hell's going on. But anyway, I'm gonna show you. This is the part that I'm not sure any channels show because this is the part in the interview where apparently Bernie throws cold water on Marianne Williamson in 2024.
What?
Look at this. Sanders said he would support Biden if he ran for re-election in 2024, adding that he'd done a good job, but wouldn't speculate whether other Democrats would challenge the incoming president. And look at this part. You're going to have the Bernie wing, the AOC party, undermining Marianne Williamson's campaign. This is going to be hilarious to watch. I'm going to have popcorn.
That's what I'm saying. It's so insane. Go ahead.
This comes from Bernie. I think there's a general consensus right now that President Biden has done not everything we would like. Well, sorry, not everything we would like, but he has done a good job. This is Bernie saying he's doing a good job. And again, I can't speak for anybody else, but what I have to say is if he announces that he's going to run, I will support him. So, guys, you're going to have Marianne Williamson running with the breaking points left Meanwhile, Bernie Sanders is gonna be like, "Nah, I endorse Joe Biden, bro."
Yeah, and then when they come, they're gonna come to him and say, "Bernie, there's this quasi-left person named Marianne Williamson running, and she's saying this, this, and this about Biden." Well, I don't agree with that. Well, he's doing a good job here. He is doing this. He is doing that. So what? You get what you, and then like, how does that dynamic play out? You're just gonna take 100 million, 50 million, 25 million, even 10 million from working people when you know you clearly can't win without the apparatus of the Bernie. You can't just have your friends in media. That's getting constantly debunked by RBN. That's not working. Like, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, they're gonna have their fun. They're gonna make a lot of money doing this electoral politics dance. I mean, and we're gonna be there to point out how absurd what they're doing is, and we're gonna make sure that you guys don't waste your funds. They're gonna ask you guys for funds. We're here to tell you to donate to mutual aid instead. Donate to invest into your local politics instead. Don't focus on these fucking politicians like Marianne Williamson, who's running a vanity project, and then when called out for it, she said she's being an abolitionist. Actually, it's beyond parody. So let's read this part go this part one more time because I want to emphasize this again. You have breaking points that says Bernie Sanders is going to mount Marianne Williamson is going to mount a Bernie Sanders style run. Now, in the Bernie Sanders style run, it was quite impressive how he got Pramila Jayapal, he got Ro Khanna, he had all the boutique fake progressives that formed a coalition with him. Marianne is not even going to have that, guys. That thing where they show up at rallies, they got AOC at the speaker at rallies, not going to happen with Marianne. But somehow, she's going to propel herself and defeat Biden and win South Carolina. So theorists have said, because the president never been primary by his own party, at least in the modern age of politics, the only way you can possibly do that is if you start out strong, right? Because so that sends a message. Oh, actually, I don't need this article up anymore. So that sends a message that I am a legitimate challenger. Because most people won't view the president as having a legitimate challenger. So most people who theorize about how this will be done, you got to get a win early, right? You got to make yourself legitimate out of the gate. The media, because they don't like the Bernie wing, they're already writing her off as crazy orb lady, already treating her as a joke. And then South Carolina is going to come, and because the Democrats rid the primary, that's Biden's most powerful state, she's going to get destroyed in the first primary, and then she's going to become immediately irrelevant in the race. And then you're going to have people like Bernie and people that say, "Oh, Marianne, you need to drop out of the race because the only thing you're doing is weakening Biden, and you're going to make him weaker in the general election." So, breaking points. This is why Vanguard invited me on the panel, despite people tagging me and all in the thread. Because I was playing this basic fact on how this is going to go for them. And they're going to pretend, "Oh, we got a chance." You never know what's going to happen. We're going to look in our crystal ball. They know exactly. No, we know what the fuck is going to happen. And then she's going to lose. And then she's going to endorse and take all that quote-unquote revolutionary energy and take it back to the Democrat Party. What we're doing at RBN, and we're trying to cut the head off the snake before this shit gets started. To me, it's obvious what's going to happen here. And Bernie Sanders, with this interview, and as we said before, I brought this up over a week ago, CJ. What is the Marianne Williamson left going to do when the progressives don't join her side? When Pramila Jayapal is the person who convinced Bernie Sanders to drop out because she didn't want to weaken Joe Biden. So soon South Carolina happens, as soon as the first few polls hit that show Marianne Williamson at 2%, they're going to immediately call for her to drop out. Immediately. You have people immediately.
Because to your point, Nick, sorry to interrupt you, but to your point, same thing happened with Obama. Remember, they thought Hillary Clinton's about to be president. Yeah. The only way Obama had a chance is because the first 3 states he really had to play, and I think he won 2 of the 3. I can't remember. I know he won 1 of the 3. But the first 3 states where you have to make a name, so when people say, "Wait a minute, who's this guy?" Then he started getting this flood of money, and that's when the race began. So, but she's not going to have that because South Carolina's first, because Michigan is like 3rd or something like that. You're not going to have that.
That's why it was an amazing move by Biden, because I could imagine if a president loses that first primary challenge, because this is how the theory works, the electoral theory. You lose that first primary, and then you say, "Oh, I'm a strong candidate than the president." Why will you risk running the president when I won the first few primaries? I'm clearly the strong candidate. You don't want Trump winning, right? Marianne Williamson's going to have none of that, which is why it was such a corrupt but also genius move of Biden to move South Carolina front, because he just killed any chance of a progressive primary challenge. Because Bernie, with the momentum of winning Nevada, Iowa, and New Hampshire, with everyone endorsing them, still got blown the fuck back because of the corrupt DNC strategy and because of Jim Clyburn's influence. Because I was on the ground in South Carolina. It was crazy. But Marianne Williamson, Vanguard, Breaking Points, she's going to do what Bernie Sanders couldn't do. With the fraction of a coalition, with no grassroots support, while supporting the Ukraine war. And she's going to do what Biden did not do and make a competitive race out of this. It's absurd. It is nonsense. And this is the kind of stupidity that RBN is done with. The working class should have nothing to do with this stupidity. And if the boutique left think we are toxic, if they think we are mean because we don't want them to lead workers down nonsense, I am more than happy to accept that. Because we're done with the polite politics, civility politics, where you guys are leading the workers down stupid ass bullshit and no one supposed to say anything because we're not supposed to be rude. We're not supposed to be mean. Marianne Williamson 2024, in my last statement, is a joke. Everyone who's pushing it is a joke, who is trying to mislead workers and lead them off a cliff.